Chinese ride-hailing firm will begin operations in South Africa from Cape Town. This comes after a successful pilot program in Gqeberha. Cape Town is considered ideal as the city has embraced the sharing economy and has the largest African presence of Airbnb. Well, joining us now to evaluate what this would mean for tourism is tourism lecturer Unathi Henama of the Tshwane University of Technology. A very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Now, this is not the first time I understand that Gqeberha has been used to pilot an e-hailing service, an international one at that. What makes it the ideal place for trial runs?
I believe because it doesn't have a very good public transport system, and it's also in the Eastern Cape, which obviously gives it a good way to test something there, because it is not like in Johannesburg or Cape Town where there's a big population. So I believe Gqeberha is actually doing good. So I believe it's a good story to tell with the municipality there that companies would like to come and launch ride-hailing services in Gqeberha.
But unfortunately, the reasons why, I mean, the fact that it doesn't have a good transportation system is not something to shout about.
I agree, yes. But I think it's a great opportunity for them to leverage on the sharing economy, because it will be allowing people within the municipality to come and embrace the sharing economy. Obviously, it will obviously be a form of public transportation as we go further.
And speaking about the sharing economy, Cape Town has been touted as one of the cities that actually has embraced a sharing economy, and that is seen as one of the reasons why it seems like an obvious choice to be the one where this Didi app will be launched in the African continent. And also, I think it has the largest number of Airbnbs in the continent as well.
Yeah, it's a great success story. Cape Town is a great success story. Actually, while the former mayor Didi signed an agreement with the sharing economy for Cape Town, and that has actually reduced the price of accommodation using Airbnb, and also ensured that they've got the highest presence of Uber and Bolt within the country, which obviously augurs very well for the transport system within that city.
Now, having another service being added, you've mentioned Uber, you've mentioned Bolt, I think there's also Uber Nam as well. What does that mean for the tourism sector?
It means transportation will be cheaper. South Africa, from a flight perspective, the flights are very, very expensive. But ground transportation is a big challenge, because you find that the tourists don't use our minibus taxi industry. So obviously, these sharing economy companies are able to provide services at a very, very cheap rate. I mean, you spoke about Uber Nam and Bolt Go. All of those have also reduced the pricing. Now you find a situation that in the past it was the meter taxi drivers fighting these guys within the sharing economy. But now increasingly, you find that the cost of a taxi is actually at the same level as Uber Nam and Uber Go, which has actually revolutionized transportation in South Africa, and it has potential implications going forward.
I mean, just thinking about the protest that first erupted, against Uber, where we actually saw some Uber drivers being hijacked, some of them being burnt in their cars. Are we going to see protests erupting again, whether it's from the meter taxi sector or from even the minibus taxi sector? I
started hearing rumors that they're being hounded by the minibus taxi industry. And I feel, for argument's sake, you find that students might take one Uber Nam for 30 rands to town from Pretoria to the CBD of Pretoria, and there'll be 4 of them. So it's actually changing the dynamics, and it's a big lesson for the minibus taxi industry that it is time to evolve. It is time to embrace technology.
I was going to say, how long can they resist technology for? We are moving towards that 4th industrial revolution after all.
We are moving towards that. Now, imagine now if these companies now start doing long-distance trips, which is a high possibility, because Uber possibly 4 years ago did pilot going from Joburg to Durban. So there are possible implications, because this is a properly unserviced market.
And I mean, actually, just speaking about Uber having piloted that, I actually have spoken to one of the e-hailing service drivers who mentioned that he himself has actually taken a few long-distance trips. So already they are tapping into that market as we speak.
They are tapping into that market. And the good thing is that there's safety, there is, convenience, and a great customer service, because people want great customer service. And I believe the taxi industry, this is moving.
Can we also view this e-hailing service and, I mean, the rise of e-hailing services as perhaps a way to create jobs? I mean, you mentioned earlier on that taxis are expensive to buy, whether it's a meter taxi or even the minibus taxi. So can those people who used to have to pay a lot of money to buy those vehicles actually just switch to these e-hailing services where they pay a lesser premium and they've got subsidized costs to be able to own a vehicle but still be able to earn an income?
The sharing economy is a great job creator. It has created also a situation where people have got multiple hustles, because you can rent out a car or be a driver. So it's a great job creator, and I believe it's a great story to tell about how South Africa, with the high rate of unemployment, has actually created jobs within the sharing economy. I mean, a lot of people are now taking their kids on Uber now instead of driving them to school. And you find people will have a partnership on how maybe it's this parent today and the other parent today who will request. So the whole world is changing now. And remember, the most important thing here is about safety. It's about the convenience. And the entire transport sector in South Africa has to clearly understand that these guys are winning because they provide these solutions.
You just mentioned something interesting there, the scholar transport industry. That's like a sort of a division of that minibus taxi and taxi industry. How can they then evolve to remain relevant? I mean, if parents are also using Uber and other e-hailing services to transport their children to and from school and other activities?
I believe the most important thing they could do is to ensure that they've got appropriate cars. The most important thing about scholar transportation is that to ensure that the car is roadworthy. Some of the scholar transportation cars that we see in the streets are so they have to adapt to ensure that they've got appropriate services and their taxis, minibus taxis, are to the right standard so that parents can have that confidence that my child is safe within this vehicle.
And just lastly, in terms of passenger safety as well as the driver's safety, how is Didi going to be different?
I think Didi will obviously follow what Uber has done successfully to ensure that they built in security systems within South Africa. So I believe they'll follow that path. And they're quite big in China, That's why even Uber left China. So they're actually quite big. So this is their entry point to the African continent, and possibly the next destination will be Kenya, because it always moves like this. Usually South Africa, then Kenya, then moves around the whole continent.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Unathi Henama, who is a lecturer that actually deals rather with the topic of tourism at that particular institution. Just talking to us about this new e-hailing service called Didi, which was piloted in Gqeberha and will be launching from the city of Cape Town to the rest of the African continent.